Bark beetles are tricky. By the time you know they're there, their populations are really high.
We have to do something about it. We have to do something collectively about it. Unfortunately, we're reactive and not proactive. We need to manage our forests. In this county, our first look said we had something like 9,000 dead trees, I think that's the number, on county-maintained roads. This problem isn't going away. We need creative solutions. And you need to engage in this problem and deal with it. And if you're from one of the counties that hasn't seen it this bad yet, engage now, because it's coming your way.
You see a lot going on. You hear from a lot of people. These guys right here are heroic. You're going to see what they're going to do in a minute. But we have got, I think in Miwok Village, there are over 4,000 trees like this that are hovering over people's homes, and somehow they got to come down. And you folks pay for it with your PG&E rates, so you're making this happen. But these guys are the ones making it happen, doing the work. And I'll tell you what, without them, we'd be sunk. So you're going to see something really, really special here. And these guys are doing this every single day, day after day after day.
Certainly, this situation that we're faced with in terms of insect and disease and drought mortality is by far the largest complex issue that I've had to deal with in my career. These are native beetles. These are natural parts of the ecosystems that exist at very low population levels normally.
We fully anticipate the problem to stay on the same trajectory and to get even worse next year.
You know, we're really looking at the future, just like Tim said. And this year alone, within the next 4 or 5 months, we will actually be replanting approximately 900 to 1,000 acres that was salvage logged this year.
We've cut over close to 30,000 trees on the National Forest in this last year. That's through a combination of means, and our focus has been where those trees would have the greatest likelihood of impacting people. We have taken trees out from campgrounds, from trailheads. We have taken trees down along private property boundaries, especially where there's the possibility those trees could hit a structure. You know, this is a situation that we need bold action, and we need to work. It takes the community to actually respond to this. We really actively manage bark beetle through sanitation harvesting, and in some areas of California this is a lost battle already, but where you have low numbers of beetles, so just where your beetles are starting to increase in population, you can make a dent in that population by cutting down the trees that are still green, but they're full of beetle. When they're full of beetle, even if their crown is green, they're dead. The tree just doesn't know it yet. So for example, where we were watching the tree being felled today with the crane in the foreground of that excluded area, and I couldn't verify this because we weren't supposed to go over the barrier, but there was a standing green tree that looked to me like it was mass attacked. That's going to be a dead tree next year. If we could remove that tree at the same time, because there's ways of verifying that these are mass attack trees, then this might help with some of the multiple passes we're having to make through these areas. Also in these areas with less tree mortality by bark beetles, so where you're not having 85% of the trees wiped out, you might actually reduce the beetle population by a really active sanitation program. And that's removing those trees while the beetles are overwintering and getting them out of the woods. The beetles are destroyed when you debark the trees. You're effectively removing, thousands and thousands of beetles from re-emerging and attacking new trees the next year.
We have approached this not in a singular way. I was just listening to Jeannie speak about how we really need everyone to look into this, speak into this, and so that's how we started. First, CAL FIRE actually started the task force here in Tuolumne County and then approached us and asked us to take it over. So we did. When I say us, it is a collaborative effort. So it's Tuolumne County, it's PG&E, it's CAL FIRE, it's U.S. Forest Service, it's Tuolumne Utilities District, we have the Fire Safe Councils. There are many, the SPI comes, so we have American Wood Fibers, we have Ultra Power, so we're trying to get all of those together so we can look at everything from how do we attack the problem And what do we do with the product once we get it on the ground? We've done work up in Leisure Pines, and that was a collaborative effort again. It went really well. CAL FIRE's inmate crews come up and they chip everything that's left behind, and when we left, it looked like some of those areas looked like landscaped yards. It was beautiful.
CAL FIRE is kind of an interesting agency because we have resource management, and then the bulk of our department is firefighting. So on the resource management side, we're responsible for enforcing forest practice rules in California. As you guys know, there's tons of laws and rules about everything, and there's lots of rules regarding logging. And so one of the things that was a big help last year, the Board of Forestry passed an emergency rule package to kind of streamline regulations and make it a lot easier for people to salvage these dead trees. We do a tremendous amount of defensible space inspections for people, the clearance around their houses. These fires, they don't care what they're burning in, if it's out in the woods or the subdivisions like Miwok, they're going to burn just the same. And you know, we've talked about this collaborative effort, all these agencies working together, but homeowners are a big part of that. And there's three things that really influence fire behavior: the weather, topography, and fuels. And the fuels is the one thing that folks can work on to minimize the fire danger. And although the dead trees are overwhelming, there's a lot of simple things folks can do to make their homes more fire safe and give us a safer spot to work in.
Help write grants to do things to help out CAL FIRE, the U.S. Forest Service, PG&E. We apply for RAC grants, the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. All these grants are eligible usually on a yearly or annual basis to us. They're on a cycle, so we try to always have projects. Well, let's go back. We meet monthly to try to determine what needs to be done in our neck of the woods. And then we meet with all the different agencies and say, okay, what can we do to help? What projects should we go after? How should we write them? And so there's a lot of work that goes on. Again, we're all volunteer. There's about 5 on our team. I know 108 has a lot more than that. They have more people to draw from. But volunteers are tough, but again, they give up a lot of their time to help achieve these things that we need to do. We just finished 3 grants, and we wrote them up to about $200,000 a piece, which were the maximums that we could do. 2 of them were for the tree mortality. The one I really want to talk about, and what Mike alluded to also, is this TMAP, which is a brand new group called the Tree Mortality Aid Program. And I'm lousy at remembering this, but our mission statement is to improve the health and safety of low-income seniors and disabled homeowners in Tuolumne County. This collaboration with private and public partners will provide resources, support, and assistance in the removal of hazardous, dead, and dying trees as a result of catastrophic tree mortality. So back when we've been attending these tree mortality core and team meetings for probably about a year now. So the biggest thing that we've been able to do up until about 6 months ago was to educate the people in our neck of the woods as to what's really going on. We're putting this group together, and we want to start something for the low income and disabled adult. You know, the other end of the spectrum, where these people just simply moved up here to retire, they're on fixed incomes, and they absolutely have no way to deal with this mess that they wake up to, as we have seen driving up here. You do have a handout in your folders that briefly explains what the program is about. There's some questions and answers in there. There's also a phone number. There is an extension, so you can call, leave a message. We have a website that'll be up shortly that'll explain this much better, or more detail if you choose.
What is Sierra Pacific doing on its own lands about this problem? Aaron and I noticed last year in several hot spots in Tuolumne County in particular, but also in Calaveras County, we started to see this problem manifest itself on our lands. I'd say last year, about, at least for the Sonora district, probably at least a third of our harvest was related to beetle mortality. We began this year, and very quickly, and very early in the season, I'd say by mid-May, we did a complete transition to 100% salvage harvesting on the Sonora district. Our next district to the north, the Martel district, we followed suit just a couple weeks later.
We're not only out there just to capture the value, it's also, there's an attempt to stop or slow the progress of some of this activity. And, you know, under these epidemic conditions, it's marginal at best at being able to stop. this process. But we are able to slow down, pull back, and slow down this activity to some degree and to some level. The third aspect is also just to reduce wildland fire hazards just by the removal of all the dead and dying timber. And fourthly and lastly is just, as we mentioned before, is just to get the area regenerated and growing again so that we have forest stands in the future. It has to be extremely proactive, and you know, this crisis is going to continue. This wave is really, as we all know, it's rolling north. It's heading to Calaveras County. It's that whole Arnold area and Avery, and that whole region is going to be experiencing and is starting to experience what we see here right now. But you know, from our perspective, again, it's highly proactive and going after it and planning for the future as well. So.
One of the things we've really focused on in trying to restore western forests is making them more fire resilient, i.e. keeping the fire when it happens on the surface rather than getting into the crowns of the trees. If you had frequent fire in the forest, you had a system, a structure, spatial structure, which has been described as having three elements: individual trees, clumps of trees, and openings.
The Sierra has experienced really catastrophic amounts of mortality. You know, we've lost probably 85% of our ponderosa pine, about 75% of our sugar pine, and about 40% of our white fir. And so below 5,000 feet, there really aren't many conifers left alive below 5,000 feet on the Sierra National Forest. If you think of the drought in 2015 as sort of moderate and severe, and the drought that's occurring now in 2016 as extreme, right? So those structures are pretty resilient in a moderate and severe drought, but are sort of becoming shaky, if you will, in an extreme drought.